Hola, buenas tardes a todos y bienvenidos a esta rueda de prensa sobre la tercera Asamblea General de la Alianza Sahel. Vamos a dar paso al turno de preguntas, pero quería advertiros principalmente que solo se responderán a preguntas directamente relacionadas con la Alianza Sahel. Tiene la palabra el ministro español de Exteriores.
Buenas tardes a todos. Y antes de comenzar esta rueda de prensa sobre la Asamblea de la Alianza Sahel, quisiera trasladar.
Good afternoon to all of you. Before we start off this press conference, I would like to just state that my solidarity, my sympathy go out to the families of the victims of those people who have suffered from the outrages of the Russian troops. We've seen shocking, outrageous pictures, images of what's happened. They should not be left unpunished. There should be no impunity. They need to be investigated very quickly, and the people responsible should be punished. It's a great pleasure for me to be here with you this afternoon, together with Minister Mahamat from Chad, who is the president of the Council of Ministers, the G5 Sahel Council of Ministers. At this joint press conference following the end of the General Assembly, Spain has been presiding over the General Assembly for 3 years, and we will also hold the presidency for one further year. One of the decisions taken today was that we will extend a further year Spain's presidency of the Sahel Alliance. The members and the observers met together, and this is a responsibility that we have accepted. Spain would like to be useful, seeking peace and stability and development in the Sahel. Sahel is a neighboring region for Spain and Europe and the European Union. Everything that happens there matters to us and affects us enormously. The growth of political instability, terrorism, the needs for development, humanitarian aid needs are sufficient reasons for us to be able to pay it the fullest attention. We're living in very turbulent times, tumultuous times, also in the Sahel, particularly for the political structures. And Sahel is also part and parcel of that. And our message has been quite clear in the work that we have been doing during this assembly. There can never be any better alternatives or options than respect for democracy and for the rule of law to consolidate solid security and robust development. I would like to reiterate Spain's support for the ECOWAS, the African Union, and the UN to bring all of the Sahel states back to the constitutional order. I would also like to reiterate Spain's commitment to development, the development of the whole region. Between 2020 and 2019, almost 800,000 euros were earmarked for the Sahel, and as one of the priority countries in our cooperation, Niger, Mali, Mauritania, and Senegal. The General Assembly that we have held today has been very useful for us to be able to reinforce this constant coordination, dialogue-based work that we're doing. We've identified priorities and action lines that will allow us to optimize the impact that we make. And I once again like to thank all of the members of the Sahel who have traveled to Madrid today, especially to the Chadian Minister Mahamat, who is with us today. I would also like to urge all of you to work together for stability and development in the region. I'd also like to underline the presence of Mr. Ousmane Amoudi from Mauritania and the ministers from Niger. And just like to say how happy we are to see the new accession of 3 members to the Sahel Alliance, US, Canada, and Sweden. That shows you that there are more and more partners that would like to support development and stability and security in the region.
Merci.
Thank you very much. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation for Spain, let me, if I could, thank you on behalf of all of the my colleague ministers in the Sahel, thank you for the hospitality that you've shown us, your leadership and your organization, holding the presidency of the Sahel Alliance. And I can say that today because today we have had the opportunity to discuss every single one of our concerns, and we have been able to hold a very coordinated discussion because we need to work on these actions. We have real needs in the Sahel. They're known. We are a country with undergoing a demographic transition where the young people are over 75% of the population. We have young girls and young boys who are out there looking for jobs. They're looking to maintain their health. We have all of those challenges then in the Sahel, and we also have the challenge of instability as well as climate change. As you know, our geographical position in Sahel is one which means we're facing all constraints, including security. More than 30% of the budget of all the states are earmarked for that. And that budget, that money, should be used for the social difficulties. Nevertheless, that we have to use that money to actually address the problem of those actions of extreme ideologies. That we can see that all over the world, but they come together in the Sahel because, as you know, we have a huge area that we cannot occupy, and so that these extremist movements can move in, and we think that we think the best way of working against them is to have coordinated action, to invest in sustainability, which has been said, to invest in youth, to strengthen our states. We understand that there is this engagement, this commitment. We need to ensure that we have that sustainability. Take an integrated, comprehensive, holistic approach. That is the thing to do. And we are delighted to see that we have an ever bigger team here with the accession of the USA and Sweden and Canada. We thank you very much for joining us. Thank you once again to you, Minister. Congratulations on your leadership. Thank you to the people of Spain for their hospitality. Thank you for being so willing to bring us here and welcoming us. Thank you. Minister, let's start off with the round of questions. Hello, I'm from the Europa Press Agency. To both ministers, I would like to ask you about the current situation in the Sahel. Things are getting worse in Mali, in Burkina Faso. I think things are also getting worse there. Are you worried about the fact that Burkina Faso might actually follow in the footsteps of Mali with the presence of the Wagner mercenary group? I also want to ask our Spanish minister about this group. What about the EU mission? Josep Borrell said they probably have to actually think it out again. Perhaps Spain will have to withdraw some of its contingencies. And with regard to the Sahel, as Morocco and the Sahel are fundamental countries, everything to do with Sahel is important if we are to guarantee stability. Is this something you'll be dealing with when the president travels to Rabat with you soon? Is there a date for that trip? And will you be dealing with this issue and perhaps a forthcoming visit to Sahel? And are you dealing with gas as well? Thank you. Thank you very much. Quite obviously, the situation in Mali and Burkina Faso are of great concern to us. In this case, Mali and Burkina Faso have not been invited to the Assembly because they are two countries that have been sanctioned by ECOWAS and the African Union because of the coup d'etats and because of the transition that doesn't ever quite get underway. The situation, obviously, is of great concern to us. It's of concern to us institutionally. We're concerned about food security. Cereal production is dropping. Food prices are going up. There's desertification too. We've been talking about all of these topics during this meeting today. And of course, the security question. This is fundamental. This is fundamental for the region, for Spain, and for Europe. Well, our thoughts at the moment in the EU, we're working together with the High Representative, and this is something that we talked about at the last Foreign Ministers meeting in the EU. Well, what we said then was that we would take a decision further going forward after another meeting of Foreign Ministers. Quite obviously, the security climate, the lack of democratic developments, and of course the presence of Russian troops in Mali, all of this changes the setting in which the mission has been doing its job down these long years. The announcement of the withdrawal of French troops from the Barkhane operation is also a big change. And that means, first of all, we have to see whether Mali wants the UTM to remain on the ground. Secondly, if the security conditions are the right ones for that to happen. And then we have to decide whether in those conditions, whether we do want to stay and continue to train Malian soldiers. And of course, all of those here around the Sahel, with contact with the Sahel in Europe, or perhaps on the other side of the Mediterranean, will work together to try and get stability, development, and democratic progress. Thank you. Thank you very much. I too would like to take up that question. The concern about Mali and Burkina Faso. I would simply like to say that stability in the Sahel, the way we're seeing it today, nobody really talks about it. They may be states in transition in Mali, Burkina Faso, but we don't know what the next country will be that will be facing such instability. The problem is so big that terrorism and violent extremism it's evolving so quickly that it requires coordination and resources, and we don't know what else to do apart from coordination. We can ask our partners to help coordinate our actions to try and deal and address this phenomenon. It's one way of saying that the concern is real. Changes in society in the Sahel, in the G5 Sahel countries, are moving so fast in the world as well. I think nobody really understands it. And so the best thing we can do is to coordinate our actions to deal with the situation. That's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Sí, buenas tardes, ministro.
Good evening. Sorry, I'll remove my face mask. You have said that we have to ask questions regarding Sahel, but today we need to talk about Ukraine, and you have just mentioned that at the beginning of your intervention. What's going on in Ukraine is also affecting the Sahel region because there's an increase in the price of food and fuel as well. And today you had a visit of the French Minister for Foreign Affairs. The Lithuania has said that they are going to remove their ambassador from Russia. And are you going to do the same? Will there be a coordination between European Union member states in order to provide a diplomatic answer to these crime wars that we have just get to know? Well, thank you. The situation in Ukraine is focusing all our efforts, and that has an impact in other regions of the world as well. In the Sahel as well, there are Russian troops with the Wagner group and in other forms as well. And obviously the crisis created by this Russian aggression in Ukraine has an impact in the Sahel as well. We are currently entering a new era, and we are just beginning to see the first changes, and we need to adapt. We need to take decisions at the level of the Spanish government with our European Union counterparts. I will not announce this type of measures here. If required, they will be announced when it comes to it, but the same thoughts or the same reflections that other European Union member states are entering into are also our thoughts and reflections. And yesterday we saw appalling images of the war, and we need to take those responsible for that to justice as soon as possible. And obviously that makes us think, and we need to provide an answer as soon as possible. So whenever we can, we take coordinated decisions with our European Union counterparts, and we are talking about this at the level of the European Union, especially after what we saw yesterday.
Pues vamos ya con la
Well, let's go to the last question before we bring this press conference to an end. Yes, I'm working for Sete NNA. A couple of questions for you, ministers. To complement the security measures, what will you do with cooperation and development in that area, Sahel? Yes, one of the thoughts that has come up around the table today is that traditionally we used to say that security was a prerequisite for development, but you can invert that and it works as well. Without development, you can't have security because you can't have stability. The Sahel Alliance has doubled the number of projects it has been implementing over the last 4 years. We're talking about together, I'm putting the alliance together, 22 billion euros in total for those projects. And Spain, of course, has been a key player in that. During our presidencies, we have established a number of focus areas which will continue forward. Youth, gender equality with special emphasis on girls, and food security. During these times of global crisis, on the 6th of April, there will be a big conference, a major conference to be held in Paris, and that will actually be talking specifically about food security in Sahel. And they will continue to be our key focus areas, because without security, there will be no development. But without development, there could be no security, but there will be no stability. No further questions, I believe. Thank you. I think you've said it's what is absolutely essential. Sahel is actually vulnerable to all external shocks at the moment. The Ukrainian crisis that has caused the death of or a million civilians or displaced people is also having an impact on us. We're seeing it visibly. We're already seeing the impact on the Sahel. So today, in this General Assembly of the Alliance, we've decided that we will try to improve the resilience of the Sahel countries. What does that mean? It means that we need to strengthen the capacities, the capabilities of the country to deal with this situation. A lot of the investment will be earmarked for young people, and it will also be for us to help with production mechanisms. You have to invest to be resilient. You have to invest in production methods, change the way things that happens in Sahel, so we can actually deal. We won't be vulnerable to external shocks. With regard to the Paris conference, talking about which will deal with food security. Yes, I think for a long time we will be talking about that. It's not about investing in cereal to feed a family or people for 1 year, but you have to invest in the means of production to ensure that you can provide the supplies. As we move forward, you'll also be giving jobs to young people. This is all linked. So there are lessons that we can learn from the Ukraine crisis, so we can learn to invest sustainably. Thank you. Thank you very much.